Hey guys, it's Danny. Today I'm gonna show you and I'm gonna tell you how I put together this wonderful little shallow tank that houses my sparkling gouramis, but not only, some pearl danios as well. Sparkling gouramis, absolutely love. They make the cutest little sounds in the morning, and I wanted a tank that would showcase them better. I used to have them in my Dutch and it was heavily planted and I could barely see them pretty much. So being that they're tiny little fish and they're not tall, they usually do not swim very much on a vertical level, they are better suited for longer tanks. You don't necessarily need height in these tanks, but the more length you give, the better. So I have to say, absolutely love shallow tanks. For this aspect, it's a bit of a cheat since you're actually really giving more space for the same, let's say, volume of the tank. But not only that, they're very easy to maintain as well. Anyway, so first I'm gonna take you to the beginning and how I set it up, and then towards the end of the video I'll come back with a few more details. Alright, so first of all, I want to say that this video is not sponsored in any way, shape or form by any of the brands that I'm mentioning today. None of the products have been sent, they all have been acquired by myself, locally mostly. And while I will mention what I use, it's just for informational purposes, not advertising. So, the tank is a Blau Cubic Aquascaping, and they really did a good job with this new line of tanks. I really like them. You cannot see the silicone and the glass is really nice. The light is again a Blau light. It's a second hand, I bought it off somebody. And the filter again is a Blau filter. It's a very popular brand in my area. Fun fact, it is, in my opinion, the same identical filter as the Escapers Flow, rebranded and with mild differences in accessories. So if you know that filter, this one is identical in my opinion. As a base layer, I have an already used ADA Amazonia substrate mixed with the ADA Power Sand. I had this mixture in a tank that I ended up dismantling after only 2 months. Long story, I had to leave the country for a bit and everything went south. But I saved the substrate because it's still good. So I'm arranging this substrate, which is not leaching all that much anymore, but it still has nutrients at the very bottom. I will cap it with something else. And that something else is the Tropica soil, which again is available here. I find that this is not such a nutritious soil as the ADA Amazonia is, but it's still quite good and definitely helps me with the water parameters. Now, messing around for hours with the hardscape is always implied. I don't really have an eye for aesthetics, so I do a lot of trial and error. The rocks that I use are actually petrified wood. They do not alter the quality of the water in any way, and I did have these rocks in one of my previous shrimp tanks from a few years ago. Also, I did glue the wood to the rocks with super glue, I just somehow didn't film it. So I'm filling up again with the Tropica soil. I'm trying to create a bit of a slope, a little higher in the back, a little lower in the front. And here we are, soil and hardscape done. Now in this tank I will not have any stem plants. Everything will be a rosette, and I will also not have carpet plants, just to make cleaning a lot easier, so I don't need to have a very thick layer of soil. Now, the plants, they are all reused from my previous scapes, but as I was saying, I'm focusing mainly on rosettes, epiphytes, and plants with slow growth generally, because I want this tank to be a low maintenance and low intensity tank. No CO2, no strong light, and things of the sorts. So you'll have on one side of the screen a list of all the plants that I ended up using. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but there we go. We have some surprises. Some plants which typically do not go in low intensity tanks, they actually do great in this tank. Now, initially I'm starting off with 50% light intensity. This particular lamp has a button which only turns on half of the LEDs, so for the first few weeks I'm only going on 50%, and that's one of the key factors in avoiding algae. High amounts of light are seriously unnecessary and quite detrimental when the plants are not established yet, and also when you do not have CO2 to support growth. So what I will do is create algae. So I kept the lamp at 50% for the first 3 to 4 weeks, and then I went 100% monitoring the algae, which never showed their face, so that's good. Since the soil that I used didn't leach out too much ammonia, and also the filter media, the biological filtration, was also reused and already had bacteria, I was able to add the fish in about a week or so. And I also didn't have to do a lot of water changes, maybe 4 water changes in a week, and my tank was actually safe for fish. So after 1 week, the fish were introduced without any type of problem. Alright, so this is the tank. It has been running for about 2 months now. It is very, very stable. I do maintenance on this tank about once a week now. I can get away with 2 weeks, but I'd rather not because it's just easy. In that particular day, I do maintenance on all the tanks, so I have all my gear out. Might as well change the water. And as I was saying, it's super, super easy to clean this tank. Maybe I should show you. I use one of these. Maybe I should do a video on maintaining this tank as well, if you guys want me to. So it's a turkey baster attached to one of these pumps. It's an idea that I saw on the 2-Hour Aquarist channel, I believe. And it's amazing. What you do is just fluff the soil, puff it up, and all of that debris swirls into the water column where you can get it with the little gravel vacuum pump. I don't know how you call this thing. So I do that really, really fast. I cannot really insert a gravel vacuum too much because I have a layered substrate. I have that ADA substrate below, and then on top is the Tropica. There's really no point and no need to go all the way down because the dirt, let's call it like that, it doesn't really go all the way down, and if it does, it's just food for the plants. It's fine. And whenever I do clean the glass, I use one of those magic eraser type of sponges that I get from the pet shop, and really fast, in like 2 minutes, I clean all the glass. It's so easy to clean the glass of a shallow, especially when you have tiny little arms and hands like me. I mean, all of these bruises, they're coming from the discus tank. These shallows are perfect for a person of my stature. So I do that really, really fast. I change 50% of the water, or sometimes even more, because I can get carried away with cleaning and puffing the tank. So sometimes it's more than 50%, but it's absolutely fine. And then I fill it up again directly with tap water. I don't use special type of water for this particular setup. It's just my tap water, which is not ideal. It's pretty hard, 350 parts per million, and it has pH towards 8. So it's not the best, but it works out just great for me. And part of that is the substrate, which is the soil. Helps me maintain better pH, better TDS, and so on and so forth. Now, the plants. The plants are pretty much all reused from my older setups. I focused more on rosettes. I do have some hygrophila, I believe it's a siamensis back there. It doesn't grow all that fast because I don't offer highlight and CO2. It is very healthy, very green, it just doesn't grow fast, but it's pretty much the only stem that I have. Everything else is rosette or moss, or it's an epiphyte, or things of the sorts. And while CO2 addition always helps and it makes the plants purl, aka releasing those oxygen bubbles, it's whimsical, it's very nice. As much as that's the case, I wanted a hassle-free maintenance for this tank. It's kind of not needed as well because I have very easy to care for plants. They're not very demanding. So most of the plants are mainly root feeders, and typically these types of plants, they're the easier going ones. Think cryptocorynes, echinodorus, and surprise, surprise, you might have noticed, it's one of my favorites actually, the Eriocaulon cinereum. Now this is a plant that, if I'm not mistaken, is considered hard to grow by Tropica, or difficult. I don't find it difficult. I mean, definitely there are plants who will just not look great if you don't provide CO2 addition, strong light, and all of those things. And then there's this one, which generally speaking, aquarists stay away from unless you have a high intensity tank. I just had it left over. I'm not gonna throw it away, it's a beautiful plant. I just put it here, and not only here, I also had it in a low intensity beta tank throughout the summer. So I put it in a setup like this and like survive. And it did, and it flourished, and it actually looks really, really nice. So I'm guessing this is a plant that can actually do great in low light conditions and without CO2, as long as you provide fertilizer in the root area. So yeah, very happy to have discovered that. It's not gonna work with all plants, but I'm happy to discover that with the Eriocaulon, it worked. I also have the Vietnam in the back. That's an easy grower anyway. So everything here is pretty easy growing. I don't need CO2, I don't need all of that. I can always add it if I so desire. I don't have carpet plants because I wanted this tank to be easier to clean and less maintenance. I don't want to trim them and so on. So I kept it simple. Plants that don't grow fast, that don't need trimming and all of that, that don't need CO2 to look good, or addition of CO2. They do need CO2. They do absorb whatever carbon dioxide comes from the air or from the breathing of the fish and so on. They have some CO2, they just don't have too much. And I don't feel like adding more because I'm happy with how things grow. And other than that, really, things have been growing beautifully. So it's really easy to maintain it, really easy to clean it. It takes me 10 minutes overall to properly clean this tank. It's good to go for 2 weeks, but I do water changes every 1 week because why not? So yeah, that is about it on the shallow. I know some of you guys requested to see it and hear about it. I hope this inspires you. So let's stop talking because I do talk a lot, and for those of you who are new to my channel, you'll get used to it. But yeah, I think it's time to end. We've gone for too long, even for my standards. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye.